Hello, welcome back to another Swans cast match preview ahead of the return to football from the international break, where Swansea will be heading up to the Hawthorns to take on West Brom. And I am joined by Mike from All Things Albion. So welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
That's all right. Would you like to inform our listeners where they can find your content if they wanted to go and check out some of your stuff?
Oh, thank you. So, you can find us on all the usual podcast platforms: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, things like that. If you search for All Things Albion, or on Twitter, I am at Mikey WBFC, and on Facebook, if you search for All Things Albion, you'll find us over there. So we're everywhere, really.
Yeah, okay, great. That's good. Maybe they'll come and see what you're saying ahead of the game, or if you're doing anything before the game, be interested to see your end. But yeah, I'm actually going to go up to this one. So my first away game this season. Looking forward to it. So hoping it's going to be a decent match to watch. But I'll try and find out a little bit more about what's happening at West Brom. That's why you're here, to tell us a bit about your season. So let's start with the summer. Ins and outs, transfers, any changes with the backroom staff, important stuff, like anything major that you've got to discuss there?
So it was a bit of a mixed bag of a summer. Obviously, we signed Jonathan Swift and Jed Wallace early, which was quite exciting. We then signed OK Akushlu, who played for us back in the Premier League, I think 2021, 22, 20, something like that. So positive, three good signings. We signed Jason Malumbi, who was on loan last year, and then he hit the amount of appearances needed to make that transfer permanent. There was we sort of chatted on the podcast whether it had happened by design or someone had accidentally forgotten, because he wasn't that great last year, but he seemed to have done better this year. And then towards the end of the window, we signed Brandon Thomas-Asante. And then on the last day, we signed Martin Kelly. I don't think I'm missing anybody out there. But we had a bit of a mess of transfer deadline day because basically we were supposed to sign two players. Their names escape me right off the top of my head. But we fumbled the transfers, and then didn't sign either of them, both on loan. One was from Brighton. I can't remember the other one was from. But yeah, so fumbled those two signings. And then we signed a couple of free transfers. The first one being Eric Peters. I think he used to play for Stoke.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly. And the other one was Tom Rogic, who used to play for Celtic. So yeah, mixed bag really. I think people are a little bit disappointed we didn't sign a goalkeeper. But yeah, that was pretty much our summer encapsulated.
So how do you think that's led to the beginning of your season so far? I mean, I can see the league table.
Yeah.
It's not where you want to be.
No.
Which would be the same for us until we got over a much-needed win over Hull last game out. Our form was picked up recently, but we've been down there for most of the season so far. So, yeah. How's it been so far?
So I think the real problem was we didn't sign a goalkeeper. We seem to persist with a goalkeeper called David Button, who was our deputy last year, because Sam Johnston went to Crystal Palace on a free. We've promoted him, I suppose, to number one. But he's been very poor. I think statistically he's the worst goalkeeper in the league, and I think he concedes 1 in every 2 shots on average, which is not great. And then up front, we never signed a target man. I already mentioned Jed Wallace is a good winger who we signed from Millwall, and then Grady D and Garner on the left are both doing well, sort of attacking wise, but they get to the byline, cross it in, and unfortunately we haven't got anybody who's an aerial threat. We've got Brandon Thomas-Asante, who we signed from Salford City, and he's a willing runner and scores goals, but he's not a target man. That's not his game. And then we've got Carlin Grant, who is the same sort of thing. It's not really a target man. So because of that, we crossed the ball in over and over and over again to no effect. And then defensively, we've been leaky. Mistakes, or like I said, Button not particularly, covering himself in glory. So we've struggled either end of the pitch, but in between we've played well. The sort of build-up play is nice, but yeah. So I think really the lack of transfer activity due to a lack of funds, I think, has made us struggle.
So you're struggling with money then? I mean, just surprised to hear that a little bit, obviously, because you're still benefiting from parachutes. Am I correct?
Yeah, so I don't want to go too much in depth with it because obviously I know it's only a 15-minute preview. But our owner Goa Chinlai borrowed 5 million or 7 million pounds from the club to fund his other businesses, which has obviously really restricted us massively in the transfer market because, like you mentioned, we should be still benefiting from those parachute payments, but a big chunk of that has gone to the owners, the controlling shareholders, other businesses. So it's made things a bit difficult for us. Apparently, that money is going to be repaid on the 31st of December, ready for the January transfer window. But he has already missed a deadline. He was supposed to pay it back sometime last year, I believe, but he missed that deadline. But here's hoping he hits the next deadline because we desperately need that money.
Yeah, well, I hope so for your sake. It's
Thanks, mate.
A lot of clubs that don't seem to be the best happy with their owners. Like our fans are quite the same with our owners, but we haven't had something like that happen. So maybe put it into context with some of our problems, and are they as bad as what it could be? Anyway, thanks for that bit of insight. Going into this match then.
Yeah.
Any key players that you think Swansea should be aware of, look out for? Who's going to do the damage if you are to get a good result?
I think our wingers are probably our main threat. Through the middle, I mean, Jonathan Swift, he's been a bit hit and miss this year. He goes missing for a lot of the game, but every now and again he'll pop up with a little bit of quality. So I'd definitely say our wingers are our main threat going forward, and then if Brandon Thomas Asante plays, he's a decent player as well. Colin Grant does score goals, but I think the criticism of him is he doesn't seem to offer much more. But personally, I mean, obviously, I'm not sort of Swansea's manager or anything, but if it was me, I'd go on the attack. I think defensively we're weak, and I think that's probably the place that we could be exploited. But yeah, going forward, I'd say our wingers are probably our main threat at the moment.
Well, I do hope that we go on the attack as they're making the journey up, and it would be nice to see a few goals. Our form has, it's got better recently. We had a really tough start of the season. It was looking quite bleak for us, but 2 wins in the last 3 is starting to maybe turn a corner. So let's hope for us anyway that it continues there. Obviously, you're saying it's not been the best season start to you, but you had 4 draws in the last 5 and a loss. So you're not necessarily losing all of the games. You're just not necessarily picking up the wins.
No, that's a good observation, really. I think we played 10 games, and I think we've lost, I want to say 2. We've drawn 8 or something like that, or if I can remember correctly. I think 7. 7. Drew 7. Yes, Drew 7. Actually, Drew 7, won 1, lost 2. So we're just drawing too many games. I'd almost put money on us drawing this next game because we seem to start okay. We start to start poorly. Usually give a goal away in the first sort of 10 to 15 minutes, and then try and play catch up for the rest of the game. So it'd be interesting to see how the games go. But how's things going with Swansea? How's Swansea's season going? Obviously, you're above us, but that's not hard.
Well, we're only just above you, so I wouldn't worry too much. The result for you changes that this week. We got 12 points, you got 10. So, but like I said, 2 wins in the last 3. So 3 games ago, we were on 6 points, sitting in the relegation, which I know was early to say that, but that's how the season was going. It kind of has been a story of late disappointments, really. Couple of late draws that had dropped to losses in the injury time. We were 2-0 up against Millwall, and we conceded 2 in injury time to draw the game. Just game management at the end, whether it's fitness, game management, the players just not having the bottle. I don't know what it is, but there's a theme there that has been biting us in the bum a little bit. That was in last season as well. The end of last season, there was a couple of results, same thing. I think we were leading Bournemouth 3-0, drew 3-0, 4-1 up at Reading, drew 4-0. So it's, been a problem. Joel Perreault took a little bit of time to get going with a lot of speculation in the transfer market. So a bit quiet start of the season for him. Obviously, our main goal scoring threat. He's come back into the team now. He's in the team anyway, but he's started he started getting some goals, so that's good to see. However, Obafemi had the deadline day drama, and his head dropped afterwards, and he's not been the same since. So there's been some issues. Ultimately, I'm not sure they fully strengthened maybe correctly. A couple of passengers in the team, but luckily we've managed to unearth a good guy from our academy who they've given an opportunity to, and I think his passion, drive, and like determination to do well kind of highlighted some of the passengers, and maybe that was a lot of the problem going forward. So yeah, he's stayed in the team ever since. Ollie Cooper it is, so there's one for you to watch out for. Probably played just behind Joel Perreault. So seems to have been an upturn since he's been on the pitch, which is good to see, especially coming from the academy. But we'll have to see. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves saying the form's got better. Could easily be a bad result up here and heads drop again. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
So the sounds of it, you guys score goals early, get good leads, and then concede. And we're used to conceding early, and then so this is probably hopefully going to be a high scoring.
So here we go then, 3-3 here first, 3-0 half time Swans, 3-0 by full time. Going to be crying. I went to the Reading game as well, the away game last year. I said, but it was 4-0. Like, you know, you can imagine what it's like as an away fan. You bounce in a 4-1. You think like it's 60 minutes. There's no way, and to leave on this 4-0, that was a tough ride home.
Do you find yourself getting to the point where, even though like you could be 2-0 up, 3-0 up, you can't trust that lead because you just think, because we've been through the same, you know, every fan I think's been the same sort of thing, isn't it? You just start to think, oh, you know, 3-0 up, but we'll probably end up taking a draw.
Definitely now, after the last half a year or so, you just can't trust any result. I mean, like, especially, you know, if you start seeing them drop back, that's it, isn't it? That's where you start getting the doubt then. The other team's attacking me. You're like, you've got a 3-goal cushion or 2-goal cushion, like, just keep the ball. Like, just keep the ball. Don't let the other guys have it. And all of a sudden, they're dropping back, hoofing it up to clear it. And obviously, that just invites the pressure straight back down. And it's like, do you not learn your mistakes? So in the 90th minute, like I said, there's a couple of 90-minute goals. Go to the corners. Don't pass it from the keeper. Just kick it straight upfield. But that's another issue I didn't mention, actually. He's changed the keeper based on that. Bender's come in. He was on loan at Peterborough last year instead of Fisher. And he does seem a little bit more like willing to put his foot through it when there's pressure, whereas Fisher like always wants to keep the ball and pass it to the defence, but sometimes it puts them straight back in trouble, and that's where we concede a lot of our goals. Which was the same last year. Come at us because we try to keep the ball, come at us, and we be put under pressure, lose the ball on transition, and that's where the opportunities come. But as stubborn as Russell Martin has been, he's started to make tweaks that maybe have corrected these things to some extent. There's still less sometimes, but it's better than it was, definitely.
But you say defensive would be your Achilles heel, because obviously you seem to be able to score goals, but it's the conceding that's the problem.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily defensive. It's the transition. So if we lose the ball in the wrong places more than us not being able to defend all the time. I mean, obviously there's sometimes the defence is to blame. And we haven't scored as much this season, by the way, as we did last year. Like I said, Joel Perreault, slow start. Looks like maybe we're coming back to where we were with that. It's still early in the season, isn't it? But if we're basing last season as well, it's definitely the transition. It's us playing around in our own half while we're in like an attack formation. And then if we get caught out and lose the ball while we're set up that way, say you've got 3 guys running forward now, we're out of shape, there's gaps everywhere. There's just an opportunity for you as long as you're super direct. But every team seems to know that, and that's why we seem to struggle with it a lot. Yeah.
That's good answer, thank you.
Yeah, so how do you think you'll approach this game then from West Brom side?
It'd be interesting because Steve Bruce did change it round in the last game. He went a little bit more defensive. We've sort of gone more attacking. We are struggling defensively with players. I mean, we've having to play our left back, Connor Townsend, at centre half in the last game because our main centre halves, Semi Ajayi, he's injured, and then Carl Bartley, who has been very poor. To be fair, he's injured as well now.
We know all about him.
He's not the. He's been very, very poor. So we're sort of struggling there. But then,
good result against Norwich, though.
Yeah, well, it was. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. The problem is, I think where we are in the league, we need to start picking up points. I think at the start of the season, I don't think it was just us, from the fan base, but I think most people expected us to be in and around the top 6.
I would have had you there.
Yeah, and obviously it's been a bit of a disappointment. But yeah, in terms of setting up, I expect us probably to be the same against Norwich, because you would deem that a successful result. And Steve Bruce doesn't like to tweak too many things. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But I'd expect it to be the same.
I forgot Steve Bruce was your manager these days. Makes me feel better going into the game, I'll be honest. I know that's not what you want to hear, and I hope my words don't come back to bite me, but I don't know. Just not sure. I feel like you could have had a more inspired choice.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, I mean, so obviously we had Valerian Ismail in charge, and he was quite stubborn in his ways, and he would sort of like keep the same team. And we started last season quite well, but then we started to slide down the league, and then I think we're only 5th in the playoff position, so we're still 5th, but we'd lost a few games, and it seemed to be unraveling. So they sacked him and then brought in Steve Bruce. I think most people thought it's okay, he'll steady the ship, but expected him to go in the summer, but he's some reason still here and not doing particularly well.
I think he should have kept Ishmael, to be honest.
I think looking back, it would have been the better decision.
I'm just basing it from his most current tenure at Newcastle, and if you hear the way the fans talked about him up there, like they couldn't have got rid of him sooner.
No, we've got a combination at the moment. So we had Newcastle fans warn us about Steve Bruce. Then we hired him. And then also we've got a chief executive called Ron Gourlay, who was at Reading, and the Reading fans aren't a big fan of him. So we had Reading fans warning us about Ron Gourlay, and we had Newcastle fans warning us about Steve Bruce. And now we've got the combination.
You see where you are on the table, and you're like, oh, God.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going well. So
after this Saturday, I hope things turn around for you, but
Thanks, mate.
Not yet. Not yet. But if you want to give me a score prediction, perhaps we can have a little bit of fun with that.
Okay, I'm going to go 2-2. I think it's going to be a draw.
I would take a draw away at the Hawthorns. I think I'm going to go 1-1.
I think you'll go ahead.
If look, I don't mind a 4-4 result like my last away game, as long as it's us coming back. You go 4-0 up in the first half, and then we'll come back. That would be a good day out. But not the other way around. Can't deal with that again. It'd be a longer drive back from Birmingham than it needs to be.
It will, absolutely. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
It will be. And also the international break as well. So we'll see who's a bit more rusty than the rest. We didn't have that many go away, I don't think, with international duty. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
Absolutely.
But thank you very much for joining me again, Mike. If you would like to remind everyone where they can perhaps find you on Twitter and your content.
Thanks, mate. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at MikeyWBFC. On Facebook, if you search for All Things Albion, and then if you search for All Things Albion on your easy me to say, podcast platform of choice, then you can find us on search for All Things Albion. But thanks, Luke. I really appreciate this, mate. It was really good to chat to you.
Yeah, and I'll perhaps be in touch later in the season as well for the return fixture. But if you just stay here a sec while I end the video. But yeah, everyone that's watching, thanks again, as always, for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the video. Go check out Mike and his podcast as well ahead of this game. See what they are scouting about the Swans, perhaps. And we shall catch you again later on. So thank you very much.